Hello, hi there. This is Confessions of a People Pleaser, and I'm Vivian Morgan. I'm an empowerment coach and a psychotherapist, and I work with people to get the life they want. I'm here today to talk about the common behaviors or personality attributes of somebody who is a people pleaser. So if you're ever wondering, am I a people pleaser? I don't really know. I mean, the last video I did was on self-abdicating. The basic premise is that you put the needs and values of other people before your own, because somewhere along the line, you learned that that was safe or that's how you fit in. So here are some of the common personality traits of a people pleaser. First of all, they have trouble saying no. They often feel guilty if they say no. They feel like in some way, if they say no, they're even like hurting somebody else. They just feel a lot of pressure to do what other people want them to do or to say yes, um, and to acquiesce for the needs of the larger group or for the needs of the family. So having a hard time saying no. I've met people pleasers who also don't really know what they like or dislike. They're not really sure because they've just kind of followed what other people want to do and what other people like. Oftentimes, people pleasers, when you talk with them, will say, I'm not sure what my favorite food is, or I really don't know where I like to go out to eat. We'll go wherever you want to go. So they often take on this persona of being very easy to please and easygoing because they're not really sure what they want. Instead, they want what you want because that'll make you happy. And if you're happy, I'm happy. And, just think about all the cultural conditioning around that idea of women in particular, mothers in particular, daughters in particular, making other people happy becomes just kind of this mantra. What does everybody else want to do? If they're happy, I'm happy. And sometimes it's easiest too. Just put my needs aside, put everybody else's needs first, and then everybody will be happy and I won't have to worry about it. There'll be no meltdowns, there'll be no problems. Only it's kind of a problem when it just becomes a habit. It becomes part of your natural response to life is that go along to get along. The other thing that people pleasers can do is they seek validation from others. Like, is this scarf okay? Do you like these earrings? Am I dressed all right? They want other people to let them know, hey, yeah, you're good. You belong and you're okay and you fit in. They often want to fit in, belong, be affirmed. So they need validation and they typically want validation from other people. So as you can see how we're moving along, the healing process is to self-validate. I like my scarf. I like the way it looks, and doing things for you. And that might be really, really hard for a lot of people pleasers who've been conditioned that in order to keep the peace, we give in to others' needs, others' wants, others' desires. Okay. And in that seeking validation, that piece gets a little tricky. They can become preoccupied with how other people feel about them. And they kind of worry, are other people talking about me? What are other people saying? Do they like me? What do people think of me if I'm doing this by myself? Or if I'm dressed like this, or if I'm whatever I'm involved in, will other people approve of it? So they have this kind of preoccupation with wanting to get the approval of other people or caring what their opinion is. And of course, this reflects a weak self-esteem. I don't want to say low because, self-esteem can fluctuate. So it's not static, but it it is an example of somebody who has not spent a lot of time really building themselves up. And self-esteem, like I said, it can vary depending on where you are in life or what you're doing with your life. So it's not a fixed state. But when you have low self-esteem or poor self-esteem, you tend to defer to other people. And in that deferring to other people, you're actually making your self-esteem even lower. Okay. They often can have a fear of rejection too, people pleasers. So they're afraid that they won't be involved, that they won't be included, um, and that that means something if they're not. So it's the idea of, I wasn't invited to go out, and that must mean that they don't like me. So they infer a lot of value onto being included and fearing rejection. And it can hurt very deeply when a people pleaser is rejected because they've worked so hard to fit in and to be approved of by other people, and to have that like, oh, no, you weren't as important as you thought you were, to be kind of thrown in their face is very difficult. Another thing that people pleasers do is they apologize. They apologize a lot. Oh, I'm so sorry. Even when they haven't really offended anybody. Maybe they spoke out of turn and, oh, I'm so sorry. Or, they're just always apologizing. And a great tip for this one, if you find that you do that a lot, is instead of apologizing, just thank people for their patience. Or, like, I'm sorry I'm late. Instead of saying that, you say, thank you for being patient and waiting for me. Or if you've taken a lot of time to describe something, and a lot of times people pleasers are um, afraid to take up too much space in a group. So they'll often apologize for sharing too much or oversharing or taking a long time to finish a story. And instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry that took so long, it's like, oh, thanks for listening to my story. Just thanking people and acknowledging that they've had to hold space for you is fine. We don't need to apologize. Um, so hopefully some of these things have resonated with you. I'm going to add one last thing that doesn't always happen. It can kind of look twofold. And that is that sometimes people pleasers can be very judgmental of other people, or they can be very tolerant of other people. Sometimes they tolerate too much and put up with too much for too long in the attempt to find meaning in a relationship or to feel meaningful to another person. They will overlook things because remember, these tend to be the people who in their families were the peacekeepers. These were the people who avoided conflict. So they learned to tolerate others' behavior. The flip side is that sometimes they can be judgmental, and that is your low self-esteem coming out. Like it just, when we criticize other people, there's this subtle feeling of authority, or there's a hierarchy there. Like I know better, or, somehow I have a better instinct about something when I'm criticizing somebody else. It's a little bit of one-upmanship. And I know that might be hard for people pleasers to hear if you're very judgmental, but it's good just to kind of know, like I'm being judgmental now. What is it that I need to hear in this relationship? What is it that I need in this relationship? And going back to some of the other things, like, how do I feel about what I'm wearing? Or how do I feel about how I showed up? Or what is it I would like to do for dinner? Instead of saying, I don't care, stopping saying, wait a minute, I haven't had, Chinese in a while. I think I'd like Chinese. But stepping in to taking up space. All of these things involve taking up space and feeling good about it and being okay with not being perfect. Perfectionism can also be one of these sidelines to people pleasing because we often feel like I have to be perfect in order for people not to criticize me and not to judge me. So if any of this has made sense to you or you've identified with it, I always encourage people to journal and write some things down that resonated with you. And certainly you can drop a comment and I'll see you next time. Once again, I'm Vivian Morgan. This is Confessions of a People Pleaser. Take care. Bye-bye.